My name is Debra Robbin, and every day I'm honored to be the Executive Director of Jane Doe, Inc., the State Coalition Against Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence, and I mean that sincerely. What an amazing display. If you have not seen it, please take some time. We'll be here today and in another part of the State House the rest of the week. And there'll be a lot more information about how you can bring it to your community, because that's the point of it, is to have a traveling exhibit. And also, you'll note that there's a lot of celebrities in the room today whose photographs are also in this display. I feel like I'm in a celebrity now. It's a really wonderful honor. This display, besides it being so amazing, is a labor of love, and has been. And it's very exciting that we get to premiere it today. Before I go any further, I have to thank my colleagues at Jane Doe. Please raise your hand if you work at Jane Doe. Peace, equity, justice, and a redefinition of manhood and masculinity that is in direct opposition to the societal violence we see all around us. Men, just as for women, are not a homogeneous group. So we rely on each of you to share your individual and collective stories about where you come from, how you got to think about these issues differently than so many of the other men, and how we begin to think about what it means to be men for change. Here in our state, in this world we live in, we might be in a bit of a bubble. I've kind of decided I like the bubble. But I also know that the bubble can be visionary and a beacon of light and hope at the end of the tunnel. And that's what this work really is about. So I want to thank you for your kind, gentle boldness, for coming along with us on this journey, because we just, each step of the way, we don't know where we'll end up. And I want to just note that the title of this, which, as you can imagine if you know how Jane Doe works, took many revisions to get to a title that we all agreed on, called Displays in Character, Men Reimagining Manhood, because these are the words and the images that we all need to think about, talk about, and see. So when you leave here today, I hope you'll tell 5, 10, 15 or more people you know about this, and help us spread the word. That's what it means to be an ambassador. You're not an individual ambassador, you're an ambassador of this work, this body of work. I also want to recognize some people who are here today, and there will be others we will recognize. I want to recognize people from the offices of Senator Chandler, Senator Shane Diaz, Representative Senate Condro. I want to thank Congressman Delahunt, who came with us in the very early days of this campaign, Liam Lowney and other staff from the Mass Office of Victim Assistance, Tammy Mello, the Director of the Governor's Council to Address Sexual and Domestic Violence, Lieutenant Governor Polito, who will be speaking today, and many others that we'll continue to acknowledge. And now it is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce an ambassador of a different kind on this issue, who has demonstrated incredible leadership in less than a year on the issues of sexual and domestic violence. And I remember when the administration first came into office, and at Jane Doe, we thought, how will we make sure they know who we are? We have to meet with them immediately so they understand how important these issues are. And we did, and from the minute that we met the Lieutenant Governor, she has been a friend, an ally, a supporter, someone who listens, who has visited programs all around the state, who has created her own learning process, but has been incredibly sensitive and passionate. And I can see how passionate she has become about this work. And so it's my just extreme pleasure to welcome you and invite you to come up.
Thank you very much for taking the time to be here in this room to launch this very important cause. I want to recognize, obviously, your co-chairs, Thaddeus Miles, who will be speaking today as well. Thank you for co-chairing with Sheriff Peter Katusian this great event that will not just be a one-day event, but one that can be incorporated into the work and our daily living. Thank you for stepping up and being such a strong leader. Collection of stories. You come from different backgrounds and experiences, which is the way it should be, so that you can say, no matter where you are, in high places or distinct places, that this is a cause that we all need to speak to and live to. It's one thing to talk about this, then it's another thing to live it. And your examples are the most profound way of breaking the cycle or setting the right example for others around you in your lives. I want to recognize Representative McConigal for being here. Thank you very much for being a leader on this charge. Thank you very much to the Congressman for being here, a long-time advocate on this issue, and your presence here today is very much appreciated. I want to thank also the members of the Sexual Assault Domestic Advisory Council, in particular Tammy Mello, who is our Executive Director, but I think who is also here as a member of our council, and Paulo Puto, who is one of your ambassadors, is a member of our council. Are you here in this room? So this has been a long-time passion of mine. When I graduated from law school back in 1991, New England School of Law, I had the opportunity to write a law school journal article on a topic, and the topic that I chose was how to give voice to victims of crime in our judicial system. And little did I know that I would find a path of public service following my years of practicing law. And I was able to serve in the legislature for 10 years where I continued to give voice to victims of crime, and in particular worked hard on the passage of Jessica's Law to protect our children from violent sex offenders. And here I am now, as your Lieutenant Governor, finding myself in a place where I can bring voice and passion and commitment to this issue. But before me came others. This advisory council was first formed by Paul Salucci, a man, obviously, who was in a place that brought voice to this issue. And I'm very pleased to work alongside of our Governor, Charlie Baker, who has asked me to chair this advisory council, who stands with you to take this pledge today to give voice and bring the work that's necessary to reduce the amount of violence in people's lives. I want to thank Jane Doe for taking this on, but what they did this year was very important. In October, they released a report, and this report was a snapshot of the past 10 years. And that report told a number that represents a number from what you could learn from the facts available to you of reported deaths from domestic violence. And 343 is the number. That's a big number, and that's a number that represents the reported acts associated with domestic violence deaths. We have a lot of work to do, because that number is too high, and it's going to take a concerted effort among all of us to make sure that we're doing what we can to reduce that number. One of the things that the Sexual Assault Domestic Violence Council has done this year, and I'm very, very proud of the council, and we will be releasing our report tomorrow at the meeting, was to do a full assessment of the implementation of Chapter 260, which is the Domestic Violence Act. And I want to give a great big thank you to Speaker DeLeo and the Senate for passing that law over a year ago, which was a very important step to take. But sometimes we can pass all the laws we want to in this building, unless they're fully implemented and really worked on, it won't achieve the desired result of the intention of the law. This working group, through the Advisory Council, worked with the courts, worked within our police departments across the state, worked with our district attorneys across the state for the full implementation of this law, and we will be giving a very good report on that tomorrow. In addition to that, there are 3 working groups that our Advisory Council has formed. One of them is on the high-risk teams, one is on the fatality review teams, and the other is on the intersection between homelessness and domestic violence. And there are other important issues that we need to work on. So this just sort of gives you a snapshot of the work of the Advisory Council, the work that Jane Doe is doing, the work that leaders like Ladies and Sheriff Katusian are working on, and the work that all of us need to do together to break the cycle of violence in people's lives. Whether they're people that just think this is okay because that's the only example that they've had in life, or it's new people coming to this culture of ours and not fully understanding what's acceptable and what's normal in our culture, and really trying to reform and by example, letting people know what is acceptable. If a person has a safe place in which to live and to raise their family, they have access to good health care and a job, they pretty much have everything. But if they live in a life of violence, that doesn't enable them to have the full life that they should have and deserve to have. And so we need to work hard to reduce the amount of violence in a person's home so that they can set the example for the next generation. These are our daughters and our sons and our children that deserve to live a life without violence so that they can achieve the dream that we all aspire to have. With that, I want to say thank you to Debra for being such a strong leader in this area. It is a pleasure to work with you. We have much work to do, and we will continue to do it together. Thank you.